The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants Thursday for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant. The ICC also issued a warrant for Hamas's former military leader, Mohammed Dayef, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in July. The judges say evidence shows both Netanyahu and Gallant intentionally deprived people in Gaza of humanitarian aid between October 2023 to May of this year.
Welcome. I am Dena, and I want to welcome you to another discussion with Dena. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, which is considered to be the world's highest criminal court, prosecuting warlords and heads of states, has issued warrants for the arrest of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Also is a warrant for Israel's former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, and Mohammed Dayef, Hamas military chief. Now, the International Criminal Court, which was created over 2 decades ago to hold individuals accountable for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide under the Rome Statute, a 1998 treaty. They are issuing these arrest warrants on the grounds of the belief that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant had used starvation as a weapon of war in the Gaza Strip. This is among other crimes under international law that they are being accused of. They are accused of many war crimes and simply crimes against humanity in Gaza. Now, news of this is said to have brought rare hope to some Palestinians upon hearing it. Even though there were some that admitted to feeling a degree of peace, there were also many that doubted and were fearful that America, which has a large influence, would prevent the implementation of this decision. And to some, it is a valid concern since the United States, as well as others powerful countries, ignore this decree, and they choose not to even recognize this particular court's authority, and have also declined to become members. And these are the first leaders of a modern Western democracy to stand accused of war crimes by a global judicial body, and also a reminder of the significant gaps in the court's jurisdiction and the often messy execution of such warrants in the past. Now, the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for these 2 Israeli leaders say that there are grounds to believe they bear criminal responsibility for the devastating humanitarian crisis that is happening now in Gaza. Now, most of Gaza's over 2 million people are still considered to be displaced. They don't have homes because it is torn up from all of the bombing. They don't even have enough food or clean water. They are struggling to find food on a daily basis. And when you see the videos and the pictures of other Israelis, when these aid trucks come in, they take the food and they destroy it or they eat it themselves. So it never sometimes even make it to the people that it was intended to be for. Now, Israeli officials who ordered the invasion of Gaza after the Hamas-led October 7 attacks say their aim is to eradicate this Hamas group. They are arguing that for months they have done everything possible to facilitate the flow of this food. But we see where people are being filmed, Israelis that are destroying the food many times. They don't even let it make it to those people. They take it, they simply throw it on the ground to prevent it from getting to them. Now, Israel and its leaders condemn these warrants, saying that the court had made absurd and false accusations in issuing the warrants to begin with. ICC judges resisted for months. They had public and private pressure from Israel and their leaders, as well as their allies. That includes the United States, some European countries, and they have resisted not charging them with this genocide. They've had, over the summer, various states, lawyers, researchers, and human rights groups that have filed briefs against the court's jurisdiction in this matter. Now, this warrant puts Netanyahu in the same category as Omar Hassan al-Bashir, President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia, as part of their membership in the court. Countries are required to arrest people for whom these warrants are issued, even though often that obligation has not always been enforced. Now, Joseph Borrell Fontelles, he is the European Union's top diplomat, and he called for these arrest warrants to be upheld. Now, the decision of the court has to be respected and implemented, he said. The decision is a binding decision on all state parties of the court, which includes all members of the European Union. The ICC's effectiveness will depend on governments' willingness to support justice, no matter where the abuses are committed and by whomever commits the crimes. The warrant should finally push the international community to address these atrocities and secure justice for all of the victims. Again, Israel and America are not members of the ICC, and they do not recognize its jurisdiction in Israel. They don't recognize it in Gaza, so they are at no risk of arrest in these places. But however, the warrants mean that they could be arrested if they choose to go to one of the 124 member nations that are included in its mostly European countries.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's office responded to the court's decision, saying in part, quote, Israel utterly rejects the false and absurd charges of the International Criminal Court. No war is more just than the war Israel has been waging in Gaza since October 7th, 2023.
These arrest warrants could limit the Prime Minister and former Defense Minister's travel arrangements. They stand to be arrested if they set foot in any of the 128 countries that are members of the court. And that does include some U.S. allies, the UK, France, Germany, and Japan. But it does not include the U.S. itself or Israel. The arrest warrants will also bolster Israel's critics around the world who see the government's military operations against Hamas as amounting to collective punishment against Palestinian civilians in Gaza. And they may also further damage Israel's reputation internationally. In the U.S., a National Security Council spokesman a short time ago said that the United States fundamentally rejects the court's decision to issue these arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials and referred to what it called troubling process orders. The council said it was discussing next steps with Israel, so we're waiting to hear what those will be. The warrants may increase international pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to, say, improve the delivery of humanitarian aid in Gaza, something that is under consideration now as aid agencies have been ringing the alarm bells. There's just not enough aid making it into Gaza now, and some of the trucks that do get across are being looted.
Now, what do you think of this development? Do you think there is any chance of Netanyahu ever being arrested or even held accountable? Subscribe and leave me your thoughts on this particular subject. And join me for another discussion with Dena. Ta-ta!